right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We're recording now. So I just want, oh my goodness, everyone's like, oh, what happened? Okay. So I just want to remind people we make no medical claims here. And to quote Rik, a cleaner, healthier body fixes itself. And that's what we're all about here. And so tonight we have the pleasure of having a guest speaker, Suzanne Morrone. Did I say it right?
Morrone.
Morrone. Okay, Morrone. And guys, she is an author, a co-author, and I believe she's written one book and she's co-authored a second book. And she is somebody that really understands and knows about heavy metals and toxins. And she's going to come and share with us. Join us, Suzanne.
Thank you, Carol. And thank all of you who are here tonight, who are doing wonderful work in helping people to appreciate what health is all about and the joy to see them make progress. So it's beautiful. Listening to Avini vibes, you know that toxins stored in our bodies can really mess us up. How wonderful it is to learn about and personally benefit from Cell Defender, which is in a class by itself. That awakening, when we get the gist of all that, helps you to realize the necessity of using safe and effective, for example, cleaning products, pesticides, wearing fabrics that are non-toxic, being aware of the food you put in your body, the water you drink, and of course, safely addressing one's stress load. And if the desire is to build and maintain health, awareness of such things is extremely important and very valuable. In your conversations to help people, they might say that they'd really like to feel better, to build and maintain health, or similar wording. Usually this is shared when they realize they're missing knowledge of how to accomplish a healthy life. You could say it's common for the majority not to commit to living a healthy lifestyle. And this is usually because they've accepted labels that they've been given and will often share those labels with you. It could be, well, I have autoimmune disease and type 1 diabetes. Or you might hear, I have osteoarthritis and I'm going to find out what else I have on my next visit. So people often share also what side effects they're experiencing and what they've been taking that are causing the side effects. You can sure discern when folks are frustrated, disappointed, and wondering when they could possibly experience better health. One thing that we can see many times is that there's a piecemeal approach going on. And you can tell that when they're sick and then a little better, and then sick again and a little better, and sick and better, and maybe for decades. And that's like a seesaw over decades, up and down. And what's missing is accurate knowledge. They easily become fearful also, losing hope, and then may decide to go ahead with something they've been told they must do, and unfortunately can experience far worse consequences. Maybe you have had that in your journey as well. Here's an interesting statistic I wanted to share. It's a 2024 addiction statistics report, and it says that nearly 50 million Americans experienced a substance abuse disorder in the previous year. So that would have been 50 million Americans in 2023, substance abuse disorder. So when mentioning toxins negatively impacting one's health, thankfully more people are becoming aware, and you are doing your part to make that so. For health's sake, we could mention there are hundreds of natural remedies proven to help prevent or address problems, with a much better track record for success. So your enthusiasm and your heart to share and care will help make a wonderful difference.
Beautiful.
Now, what are some things that you can share to help your listener consider how to build and maintain health? Well, that phrase, how to build, implies that you can learn something and experience success. How to do it. These are the steps in the process. What about if they'd say, boy, if I could only master health? Well, in mastery, you learn what's necessary to do, and then you put it into practice. You achieve what you were hoping to achieve. It's the success in reaching your goals. If someone says, I want to be on that journey, well, then it shows from where you are, you'll make progress to your destination. So you don't just take a couple of steps and then say, wow, I'm healthy. There's a process, and you realize some things take time, but you're seeing all the time better and better. What else is involved? This one is a biggie. There's a profound quote by a woman who accomplished so many things in her life. And she highlights this as a necessity for accomplishment to get success. She was a poet, an author, a speaker, a civil rights activist, actress, writer, director, and producer of plays, movies, and public television programs. That's a lot of accomplishment, isn't it? And I'm sure along the way, she had many epiphanies. This is what she said that's so worthy of our attention and reflection. Quote, this is what I'm learning at 82 years old. The main thing is to be in love with the search for truth. End quote. And her name was Maya Angelou. So when we find the truth of something, we get the facts and we put those into practice. We have success. If we only have partial information or wrong information, we stay on that seesaw. So if you're in a conversation touching on a spiritual aspect, maybe someone says, boy, I'm just praying that I'll get better, or something to indicate the spiritual side. You could share how to achieve your goals by sharing this, and it's beautiful. It's actually what the book of Proverbs begins with, and that was wise King Solomon, who was the author of that book in 900 BC. And this is how it starts out. Learn wisdom and discipline. To acquire the discipline that gives insight. to give a young man knowledge and thinking ability. A wise person listens and takes in more instruction. How beautiful is that? And how fitting. We need wisdom, discipline, insight, knowledge, thinking ability, and taking in more instruction. And you're learning all the time with Avini. And it's like, wow, I have to share that. So, to give a simple illustration, what would resonate? Say, well, it's like building a home to get healthy. How so? You lay a good foundation, and that's learning what is healthy and what's not, what body, mind, and spirit require, and then your framework. What is that? Your framework is your lifestyle, what you eat, drink, wear, how you sleep, exercise, your thoughts, emotions, how you take care of your body and cleansing and detoxing. And say, do you want to thrive? That's how you get there. So, what are a couple other things that are important to share? Because people can lose sight of this and then get discouraged, I guess, would be the best word. Your body has the power to heal. It's beautifully designed for wellness. Support that with wisdom. It's simple. Don't just address symptoms. You have to address the causes. You could say, oh, I have this headache, but why do you have the headache? I have this pain. I've got to take something for pain. Well, what's causing the pain? When you address the root causes, you dispel fear, frustration, and losing health. So let's bring this all together to sum up. You can ask an important question. Are you supporting your healing or impeding it? What should I stop doing and start doing? That's pretty much looking at health as someone who really will pursue it. We need to do those things. If you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take them.
Any questions for Suzanne? No? I think you did a
Yeah, I
thorough
have
job.
one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Why did the medical community, I think I might know the answer, veer away from the functional medicine and chose to go allopathical medicine, which they're just curing the symptoms and not curing the cause? Why did they go that
Exactly.
way? Is it about money?
Well, I think if you look at big business, there's not a lot of money when someone gets well and learns how to take care of themselves, or if you're stuck on taking a medication for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
In another lecture, I think I gave here, I at 3.5 saw the answer to that question. Because my dad asked the doctor, what can we expect with Suzanne's condition? He pointed at me and he said, she'll have this the rest of her life, but we'll manage it. And that was like he hit me over the head. I thought, the rest of my life, I'm not even 4 yet. He doesn't know.
Wow.
So the objective is to get well and learn how to keep ourselves well. And there's not a lot of money in that. You do spend money to take care of yourself, but it's sure a whole lot better than being sick and taking things for the symptoms.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
All right. So, Chip, do you want to weigh in?
Let's see. I guess I'm open, aren't I?
You are.
Okay, so Dr. Nikita called me a little while ago and she said, "What do we need to do to prepare to do this?" And I said, "Well, I think she will prepare us on the call because we can listen
Mhm.
and take notes on what she says and what the thoughts that come up in our mind." And I recommend to everybody that you approach Avini in that way. Listen to the presentations and observe and take notes on what comes up in your mind. And then, work on that. And that sounds like you when it comes out of you. You can quote and do, a few statistics like Suzanne did, and it adds credibility and power to your presentation, no doubt. So I'll just go through and pick a couple of places where, she triggered a thought.
Mhm.
And I could, if I had a few minutes or even going from my notes, I could make an effort to go back and imitate Suzanne, but it would be in my voice from my background. Well, that's exactly how you guys approach Avini too. The skeleton is always there, but you flesh it out with your experiences and the things that seem interesting to you. For example, which product is probably going to sell the best? Your favorite. Which aspect of the compensation plan is going to be the most interesting to you? Well, the one that's your favorite. So let's see. Let me just look and maybe I'll pick out a couple of things and if Suzanne writes another book, maybe one of these will be good enough it gets in the book. That's my thought. If, when she's an author and she takes the time to organize herself in that way, and you could tell from her presentation, she had, she knew where she was going. Same thing with her life since 4 years old when, that's a year sooner than Rik. Rik was 5 years old when he started rebelling and decided that he was squeamish about what the biochemists were doing with his dad and his mom, or the doctors were. Then the biochemist came into the room and chewed out the doctor, and he thought, okay, I'm going to be one of those guys in the jeans, sandals, and white lab coats chewing out the doctor because I didn't like him at 5 years old. So at 4 years old, she had the same response. She's, already knew that didn't make sense to her. So let's just take a look and see. Okay, when she said my side effects, and people had labels, and they, yeah, I got autoimmune, and I got this one and that one, and I got the 12-letter F word, and then I got the RA, and I'm going to find out what else I got on my next visit. I mean, how many people, have conversations like that? Yeah, I'm going to find out what I got on my next visit. And then it was like, my side effects. These are my side effects. This is me suffering. Well, she later on in the talk brings up the point of thriving. Well, what's the opposite of thriving? Failure to thrive. That's kind of like functional medicine. What's the opposite of functional medicine? That would be dysfunctional medicine. I mean, you kind of look at these things and look at the opposite. Well, when she said, some of the times people then, not surprisingly, are disappointed in their results on their taking care of themselves journey. And then she started talking about, okay, they're sick, they're better, they're sick, they're better. But typically it's not like this. You're sick, I'm better, I'm sick, I'm better. It goes like this. I'm sick, I'm better, I'm sick, I'm better, I'm sick, I'm better, but not quite as good as I was. Sick, better, not quite as sick, or sick, better, sick, better. And finally, you hit that point that she described. You're trending down. You've lost hope.
Yeah.
You're circling the drain. You're facing the consequences of all your previous behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, you go to the people in the emergency room or on behalf of your loved one, and you say, spare no cost, do everything you can to save them. And the emergency room nurse is thinking, what happened to the previous 20 years?
Yeah.
Why not do something less desperate as hygiene over the previous 20 years? So that a little bit better, a little worse, a little better, worse, but never, ever really, truly coming back up again. And disappointed to desperate.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, the humans are desperate, and they're doing desperate things to attempt to help themselves. And the question at the end from Richard Zimmer, the middlemen got control of they got a hold of the controls. This this is a medical observation, but I'm going to use a political example. There's a fight in the cockpit, and when one group gets to the front, they push the controls all the way forward. And then there's another fight in the cockpit, and the other group gets control, and they pull the controls all the way back. So this is what it feels like to us, riding in the back. Well, here's what happened. Somebody got a hold of the controls and leveled the whole thing out in the medical world, and it was the intermediary insurance company that gathered your money and then paid it out, and they decided they didn't want to pay it all out. They wanted to keep a bunch. So the intermediaries got control of that fight in the cockpit and said, everybody else sit down, we got it. We're going to make all, but unfortunately they have no aptitude, right? They have no aptitude in this area. It's not that they're not smart. It's the old Reagan thing. It's not that they're not smart. It's just that everything they know is wrong. And then they become confident, but wrong. And then the entire country is following a bunny trail, getting further. I loved it when she highlighted the word mastery. Mastery of the steps to lead to health success. Now, I think that's probably why you're here. Your intent is to master the ride from 70 to 90, looking at who's with me here today, and do it differently than those around you. Here's a little mind trick. When someone doesn't join you yet, put them in your control group. Okay, we're choosing people to go into a study here. The ones that join, they get the real thing. The other ones get the placebo. Unfortunately, guess what a synonym for placebo is? It's a sugar pill. Uh-oh. Guess what? A sugar pill makes them worse. And they're going to get worse while this group over here gets better. You're going to start creating the divergence. And you'll see it. You probably are seeing it open up between you and the other people that you're around. That divergence begins to open up, and it gets greater and greater. And you finally come to the point. I remember one of the guys I was listening to said, my mom's almost 100, and she's counseling me. If you keep, thinking and acting like you are, you better get younger friends because yours are all going to die off. It's happened to me. His mom told him, I might as well tell it to you guys. You better get some younger friends because, the others, either that or stick with Avini so we all go up together. I thought her introduction of the woman, Maya Angelou, that was, all those things that she had done in her life, what an organized, amazing. And did you notice how she gathered your attention there? She said, okay, what else? Oh, this is the biggie, right? Now you're paying a little bit better attention. When she said that, this is the biggie, didn't say, okay, I don't want to miss this part. And she started speaking about the woman, and at 82, loved the search for truth. So that's one of the themes that she really wanted to stick into our minds. Love the search for truth. Fight the partial or the wrong information. That wrong information, unfortunately, some of the most dangerous things are, and I need to write this one down too because it needs to be here. Sounds good is bad. Right? How many think sounds good is bad? How about confident but wrong?
Oh.
Those are dangerous situations. when the people in control are confident but wrong, sounds good is bad, and maybe they're cunning with their language. They say things in such a way that it sounds like, oh, that's obviously good. It's kind of like the similarity between an insurance policy and a prescription drug label or a prescription drug commercial. What's similar between those two things? The front page says all the stuff that's great for you. It's all the stuff that's covered by the insurance policy, all the things that are cured by the prescription, right? But it's a thick document. What about all these pages back here? What do they say? That's why those things on the front page actually aren't covered. Because if you have a loss, you bet there's something back here that tells you that it wasn't covered after all. If you take the medication, there's something back here that, well, I warned you that was going to happen. It says it right in the document. You know, when the documents start taking on that kind of a format, it's a pretty doggone good indication that they've been forced to write it that way. But unfortunately, society hasn't caught up. You know, when someone writes a book, you never know what book, what video, what piece of information. To me, that little smoking tooth video and the brain neuron degeneration, those slapped the dental industry so hard that they finally had to come to grips that maybe putting mercury in kids' mouths wasn't a smart thing to do. Those two little videos. And a book can do that. A tape can do it. Dead doctors don't lie. How many people recognize that message?
Yeah.
The title of a tape. You don't even have to, you don't even have to listen to it. And you get the message, right?
Yeah.
And then she talked about King Solomon. And his insight into life. And the search for wisdom. So biblically, what is wisdom? The definition, wisdom is fear of the Lord, right? I think that's actually right, that wisdom. But Solomon, let's play with Solomon for a little bit. Well, I got Joe's having fun with Solomon back there. So Solomon had 1,000 wives and concubines, right?
Yeah.
So here's my question. Did he just keep marrying another girl and another girl and another girl until one was in a good mood all the time? Or did he finally marry one that was always in a good mood, Ed? Right? That's the secret. If you shortcut that entire process of having to marry 1,000 till one was in a good mood all the time until you find one that, and you listen to Dave Johnson talk about Valerie. The reason he picked her out because she was always cheerful and no matter what. And I will say I've been to the mat with them when everything was falling apart. And Valerie was always, it's going to be okay. Robin West is that way. You know, if you have people around you that are that way, that always think it's going to turn out okay, they're precious. What's the opposite of wisdom? I like, you know, so what I'm doing is I'm taking and I'm saying, okay, if I was speaking from her skeleton and she highlighted certain things, what else would I like to highlight? The opposite of wisdom. What's one of the most awful things that you can be called in the Bible? A fool. Don't be fooled. That's what we've been warning you about this entire talk. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. There was another thing that I thought really brought it to Avini as she spoke onto this next page in my notes. And she spoke a few pages there. So she spoke about a building. And if you listened to me this morning, I spoke about a wall and how when you're building your team, the people that say yes or no or get a product or have a testimony become the mortar in the wall. And then somebody that takes off and sponsors other people is a brick. That's a brick, right? Other people that say yes or no or something good happens, that's the mortar. You may build your first entire wall out of mortar before somebody turns into a brick and starts sponsoring around you. But realize it will happen. You know, this group made such a huge difference for each other. And then Kyle Helm, I think everybody on here, or a lot of people here, came because of Kyle and helped him to become an emerald this month. All of a sudden, this Avini vibes, and I knew it was going to happen. You ask, okay, why did I see this one Zoom? You guys invited me once, and I never have quit coming, right? I saw it. I saw what was going to happen here. I knew it was going to happen, and I kind of know I can help it happen if I get a chance. But I could see this group and this the structure of getting together and having a guest. And so thank you, Suzanne, for filling in, because there were some people that couldn't be here tonight and they're missing something, right? I mean, if you weren't here tonight, you did miss something truly new and different, a structure in the way she thinks. I wanted to say, so I have on this page, she was speaking about what do you do to thrive? What are the building blocks? I said, fear the poison, not the antidote. And she says, are you supporting or impeding your health? Yep. Well, that changes direction. A submarine going 1 degree down is going to hit the bottom. One going all the way up is going to get to the air sooner or later. And so when you're doing things, when you're choosing your behaviors, that self-repairing wisdom she talks about, is there wisdom in your daily hygiene? Is each thing you do backed up by systematic knowledge and you're doing it to have a cause? And then she said, watch for something. Watch for the problems that occur around you. Every time somebody tells me there was a car wreck or somebody died, I ask, can you tell me what happened? One of the reasons isn't that I want all the gory details. I want to know what happened so I can avoid that happening to me, right? Learn from other people's mistakes so you don't have to make them all yourself. Learn from other people's success so you don't have to do or find all those ways yourself. But when she started talking about notice the cause that led to the problem. Here in Avini, and she said it straight out, root cause. She said, what's the root cause? And then I'll just take that one more notch. Is there a root cause that's shared by almost everything? Is there a root cause? Well, that compelled her to write a book. There is a root cause that's shared by almost everything. So a simple statement is, and I first started doing it about neuromuscular degeneration and brain problems, but it's true about every single human situation. So here it goes. All neuromuscular degeneration either is or is made worse by. You see how that works around? Heavy metal poisoning and pollution. That's what drove her to write a book. That's what drove us to start Avini. All human problems, even behavioral, either are or are caused by or are made worse by heavy metal poisoning and pollution. Why? It is because you will gradually become, and everyone around you, everybody here has this problem. I have multiple autism calls that happened in a row today. Gary was one. Richard Zimmer was another one. I mean, it's just right after another. And then it'll be old timers calls, one right after, and it'll be kidney calls. Boom. I don't know why they come in flocks like that, but they do. But it keeps me thinking and talking all day, trying to think about how to make the points quickly and powerfully so that the people will move. And maybe we could get Richard and Gary to say something about that as we go on. But that's kind of what we got to work on is how to make a point, make it powerfully, drive it in. I lean on that 5-minute video where you watch the brain dissolving right before your eyes. Oof. When you see that happen, it is direct visual evidence, says it right in the 5-minute video. There's no use arguing. You saw it. Now you understand why there's neural tangles, why there's plaques building up in the brain, why there's wormholes, why there's weight loss in the brain. You understand all that. And then you kind of look back, okay, what are we doing to deal with it? And you look into modern medicine, and right now the prescription drugs are brilliantly working on how to dissolve the amyloid plaques. Well, that's after the people fell off of the cliff and landed on the bottom. That's where the amyloid plaque is. We got to go up the river where Avini is and say, why are they falling in the river? It's because the mercury is dissolving the protein in their brain. Then it's not assembled. Then it accumulates. It's being made anyway. It just doesn't get assembled. It's like a pile of bricks in the yard that doesn't make a house. The amyloid plaques should be dissolving and accumulating like that. They're putting millions and millions of dollars in trying to figure out how to undo the amyloid plaques after they occur. So the root causes, and you come clear back, what's the answer to that? Improve your daily hygiene with Avini.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it that she said age 4. And that it kind of, okay, I thought, okay, well, there's the female Rik. That's same thought, and she went this way in her lifetime. She organized and started writing, started observing and writing. Rik created, products in Avini. So how early on she saw that doesn't make sense, that they're going to have to take care of me in a way I don't want to be taken care of for a lifetime. Powerful position for her to speak from, right? What a powerful position for her to speak from. You can find a position in your life to posture and speak from. So I think that's so important. Notice those things about yourself and others and use them. That's what I got.
Beautiful. Nikita,
Thank
you
you.
want to weigh in
Yes.
and share?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to thank Chip, because when I called him, I was like, you know what? I'm like, I don't know what her book is about. I'm like, what we gonna talk about? He was like, just listen and put whatever, like just see what's there for you. And so I'm listening and I'm like, oh my goodness, like when she mentioned addiction. It's like I'm a teacher at heart, right? When she mentioned addiction, I want to say thank you so much for that, because that's what I want to talk about next week. Okay, I want to talk about addiction because it's just like my head just ping, ping, ping about all these things. And we were talking about how alcohol and drugs are these, high. I mean, 40 million people in the world, in the U.S. is addicted to something, 12 years and older. Addicted to drugs and alcohol, but we're forgetting that we're addicted to other stuff too. We're addicted to sugar, and we're addicted to carbs, and we're addicted to all these other things that are toxins, right? And then my brain starts clicking, 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 and making connections, and I'm like, oh my God, I want to talk about this. So I want to thank you for that. Because if she hadn't mentioned addiction, I don't think I would have thought about it. And yes, I do want to talk about addiction next week. And the biggest thing I wanted to talk about was how what's interesting is that we uh, I'm sorry, it might be off kind of talk the talk, but this is what came out when she was talking about it. This what came up for me. But when we're eating like toxins, or we're accumulating those toxins in our body gets hurt. That's why we had all these aches and pains, and it feels weird. Like it feels like it's not working properly. So what happens chemically is our brain is like, listen, I'm tired of you feeling so tired. So let me give you this craving that I know is going to hit those centers in your brain to make you feel a little better. So they'll be like, okay, you need sugar, you need sugar, you need sugar, because it'll hit it's almost like it creates you to have an addiction to dull the toxic load. You understand what I'm saying? So it's almost like this trick thing. And if you think about it or ask people, you'll notice that when they're on our zeolite, they'll have a reduction in cravings. And that is reason why, is because we're decreasing the toxic load and we're removing. So anyway, I just got so excited when I started thinking about so I'll come up with an awesome analogy next week or something if there's something else doesn't come up. But I'm really excited about speaking about addiction and what that looks like and how Avini helps that. So anyway, so that's what I came up. So thank you for that, because I got really excited.
Thank you.
Such a
Thank you,
perfect
Dr.
example. And I think we could go through the entire group and say, what did you hear? You know, I did write about that, but for her, that rang a bell in her mind, and it will lead to another presentation for next week, and it'll be good. And I bet you, whatever it is in each of you that you heard, it doesn't have to be something we heard, but what it was that, I was listening to Suzanne Morrone last night. She wrote a book, and here's what I heard. Actually got to, be on the Zoom with her, and if you come to Las Vegas, I was there. I met Rik Deitsch. I saw Neil Roth. I was there with Carol Witt, whatever it is, Ed Klosky, all you guys that are, I was with you guys. And so whatever it was that, if you didn't write it down, if I'll say this, if you didn't write it down, but something created a note in your mind, that's a big one.
Yep.
Use it.
Hey, Carol.
Yes.
I just wanted to say I've known Suzanne for 7 years, I think, and she was instrumental in trying to help me with my mom when she was going through some things. And the thing that I think some people don't know is that she actually is not just an author of a book. She's written several, co-authored several, but she's an international best-selling author. She's been on TV and radio and all that. But the thing about it is that I wanted
Oh,
the first call I made from Mayo when these two nurses told me I had cirrhosis,
Mhm.
and I was kind of freaked out. I was angry at them because in 5 minutes they said this to me, and I laid there on the bed and I said, "Okay, a death sentence." I picked the phone up, called Suzanne, and the thing that was so cool about that was Suzanne was so laid back and relaxed about it. She said, "I said, this is what they told me. Can we reverse it?" She said, "Yeah, you ready to do the work?" It was like, no big deal. Sure, we can do that. And she then got me on the roadway, the path, and referred me to who I referred to as Dr. Rapoli. And then, you know, 60 days later, never stepped foot back in Mayo again. And I thank God for her because she was just, it was not like panic mode for her. She was like, of course, let's do it. Let's do it together. That's why I love her so much. And I appreciate her so much. Thank you, Suzanne.
Oh, thank you, Ed, for sharing that. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Does anybody have any questions for anyone that has shared tonight?
Carol, it's Gary with a comment.
Go ahead, Gary.
So today I did a three-way with Chip, and the topic was autism, and it's my niece who's going to be a mom sometime, I guess, in May. But her issue is, what can she be doing? And what was wonderful about the call was, of course, it was a classic three-way, but just for my niece to hear it from somebody else other than uncle. And so there's different languaging, and that Chip coming from a background of experience, but also there was a time where Chip sort of did a razzle dazzle and gave my niece more of a scientific answer and saying, if you're going to be talking to your physician about whether or not cell defender might be appropriate or not, if the doctor wants something more than just lay language from the uncle, here's Chip. And Chip then turned on the hydrant and just shared a bit. Like, there's a lot to this. It's not that we're just sort of walking around. The other thing is that my niece asked for the ingredient list and
Mhm.
was quite amazed, I could tell by her response, when it was like, you mean it's this rock and water? That's it? So anyway, it was a good connect. Very helpful, very timely. So thank you.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It is, guys, it is so amazing to do three-way calls with one another. It is so amazing to do that. And what's really great about it, because I've done several, is that it's not coming from me, it's coming from somebody else. And I get to really and truly let people know who this person is that's bringing that information to them, and their eyes are just like wide. And so do three-way calls when you can, because it really takes the pressure off of you with your friends, and makes a big difference. So, okay, anybody else have any questions? Yes, go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Chip, even though we were pressed for time, I was thankful that you sent the 5 minute video because I was struggling trying to find it. I knew I had just seen it on the inner circle, so I was able to share that with him. And what was kind of very compelling at the end of that video, where it shows that the nerve is just breaking down and twisting and getting tangled. That's pretty impressive. Um, we landed in a house with three adults and five kids. There was autism, there were all kinds of things. They're going to probably sign up, but the guy that I was talking to wanted to make sure to tell his mother had dementia, and he wanted to run it by his mother in private. And I said that's fine, but he was very knowledgeable, so I feel like it was a valuable time, and I greatly appreciate what you did just in the short amount of time that you and Marcy had. Thank you, Chip.
Mhm.
Wow, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah,
One
go ahead,
thing.
Dan.
Okay. Two things came to mind you may be familiar with or maybe not. But when you think of children and having within being an infant or maybe a little later and having problems, the Environmental Working Group did that landmark study in 2004, and it was called the umbilical cord blood study of 10 newborns. And in that study, it was brought out that 418 chemicals were tested for, and they found 237. So people thought, oh, the baby's in the womb, perfectly protected, nothing could happen. No, they can be born. And as those things continue to grow in the burden of plastics and whatever else they're taking in their body, it eventually comes to the fore.
Oof.
We
It's
actually used
horrible.
that reference on Gary's call with his niece, and
Mhm.
there's a similar one about breast milk.
Yeah.
So, here you have a pregnant mom, and she's saying, I want to go to the doctor before I do this. So make sure he's, understands this is, don't think about what you're taking in, because this is all about what's leaving you. And that's where the 5 minute and 1 second video comes. Everybody's full of mercury. Every single one of us here, unintentionally intoxicated, unintentionally impaired, unintentionally inebriated, all the humans around you. It's part of the trouble with the entire human race. This is why Avini is so important. Everybody's filters are slightly impaired, and we're more caustic. We're more belligerent. It's
Mm.
a shorter fuse on every person. Our wisdom isn't, necessarily right on top. And as we do this, everybody's man's humanity to man, our functionality through our days at work, our healthcare process where it doesn't cost so darn much to take care of us in such a foolish way. I liked what Dave Johnson said. Um, if drugs were the answer, America should be the healthiest in the world because we spend a fortune, much more than anybody else. If that was going to solve it, I was listening to one today, and it was a brand new drug, and it was a an answer to the ill effects of another drug. And then they started on to the ill effects of that drug, and I thought,
Oh my God.
uh-oh, that line that was doing this just went, line just fell off of the page. I can't show it to you down here because it's off of the Zoom, but you can kind of see some of the trouble, maybe. That's the people going. Anyway.
One thing I want to say to Suzanne, I know the report, the work, what was it called? The workman's report.
Environmental Working Group, EWG.org.
Do we know? I know that the woman's umbilical cord and the toxins were in the umbilical cord. Do we know that men too also attribute to that baby having autism?
They haven't said that, but
The way it's hitting the men
possible.
is in sperm numbers, motility, and quality.
Right.
Okay.
A lot of men can't get in the military anymore. A lot of men can't make women pregnant anymore. A lot of women can't get pregnant. And then they come to Avini as a couple and they both use it. And usually about 8 weeks later, all that gigantic expense and going through in vitro and all that
Yeah.
stuff is, I mean, it's just one of the many things. We could spend every call talking about just that.
Yeah.
Could spend every call talking about old timers, every call talking about autism or the gut or the brain or the bones. And it's all one company. So right back to, one of Suzanne's main points.
Yeah.
Notice the root causes and see if there aren't a whole bunch of root causes that are all the same. Then you find that solution. So Avini is not just another thing. It's one thing that changes
fixes everything. Yay!
So you work on your languaging. I worked on that, all for years ago and use it all the time. That little video, when I saw that and it went clear to my soul, I thought, okay, people are going to get that. And it sounds smart. And that little line, people are suspicious. I'm sure that one of the things with Gary's niece was she wonders where this is coming from. And sometimes I'll do an entire presentation on just Rik and, starting back at 5 years old. If I knew Suzanne better, I'd do her all the way from 4 on up. But the line is, and here's Suzanne, right? I think everybody respects her after listening tonight. Avini comes from smart and it attracts smart.
It does.
Okay, we got Thane. He has his hand up. Thane, go ahead.
All right. So sorry I've been rather mute tonight. I'm kind of nursing a little bit of a cold and a sore throat. Chip, here's an interesting tidbit of information. When you get something, well, for everybody, whenever you feel that burning sensation coming in your throat, you got a really nasty cold, sinus infection, thing like that coming on, spray the nano silver in your sinuses, get a nasal spray bottle. And then for the sore throat that wakes you up in the middle of the night, do a good stiff shot of nano silver gel in your mouth and then chase it with the Plus Relief gel. Plus Relief gel does not taste very pleasant, but you're right back to sleep within 5 minutes.
Hey, I used your son today too, Thane.
Oh, perfect. Perfect. Yeah, you bet. So what I wanted to throw in here, talking to a lot of individuals, a pro tip, something that I've kind of started using quite a while ago, and it helps out a vast amount. But it's a simple analogy. If you've got a 4-passenger vehicle, legally, how many people can you get in there? 4, right? Okay, so what if the back seat of that car is completely filled with, I don't know, a big pile of laundry? You got a small box of shoes. Maybe you got a small stack of bricks and a bag of sand in the back seat. Well, how many people can you legally get in that car? 2, because the back seat's completely filled. Okay, so what is that car? It's a transportation mechanism. So are the cells in our body. Our cells are responsible for transporting things that we need: calcium, magnesium, boron, building blocks of life. Well, if we've got arsenic, lead, and mercury taking up too much space or taking up the entire back seat of our cells, then obviously we need to clean that out in order to be able to maximize our nutrition load in our cells. I love using that analogy because I'm working with a lot of medical professionals,
Mm.
specifically that deal with IV infusions. And they think that IV infusions are going to be the answer to everything. Well, they're not. Like they say, you got to get to the root cause. What's the root cause? You got to clear out the back seat of your cells. Cell defender is the best way to do that.
Absolutely.
I love that. Thank you for sharing it.
My pleasure.
All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? Anything else that you want to share? We are about to end the call, so speak up now. Anybody?
Can I just recognize the group? We have a nice group here tonight,
Oh, yeah.
bigger than usual. And there's a big event going on in New York with Christine and Doug tonight. So
Yes.
the attendance at Avini Vibes is growing. That, this is a really, really important gathering that happens on Thursday night. And I thank everybody who's here. You're super important in my life.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you
I
for your
know.
time.
Thank you, everyone. And by the way, if you do not know how to get this recording, please send me a request, and I will make sure that you get on that list. Okay, I'll make sure that you are on my channel to be able to get the recordings. Okay.
How do I send it to you?
My my email is yeathrive thrive@gmail.com. So if you'll send me a request, I'll make sure that you get the recordings. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Chip. Thank you. Thank you for our guest speaker, Suzanne. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Nikita. Thank you. And this is it, guys. Have a good evening. And this will be up in the YouTube channel in probably about a half hour. Bye,
All right.
everyone.
Have a
Bye.
great night.
Good night.
It's been really real.
Good night, all.
Good night.